5 questions with an insider, getting to know this week's opponent.
Tim Adams keeps a watchful eye on Cincinnati football for BearcatJournal.com, and he's taking a few moments to join us to preview this week's UCF opponent. Tim, thanks so much for being with us.
Well, for me, it's a lot of fun to talk about Bearcat football, and I love talking about UCF, which is a program that I really respect.
Quarterback Gunnar Kiel has made his first start since suffering a concussion against BYU. This weekend he threw 2 touchdowns and ran for another as Cincinnati beat UConn. Talk about what it means to the Bearcats to have Kiel back under center.
Well, it was big. I was a little surprised because the other kid, the young kid, Hayden Moore, the redshirt freshman, had played very well against Memphis, came within a couple of yards of setting the Cincinnati record for passing yards in a game. I think he missed it by 1 yard a couple weeks ago, and then, of course, went to BYU, didn't play as well. A lot of people don't at BYU. The altitude was a big problem, but Kiel threw 31 touchdown passes last year. His first year as a starter, which tied a Cincinnati record. Getting him back out there was a little bit surprising to me. I wasn't sure they would make that move, but he played very, very well against Connecticut. And that's a Connecticut team that I think you guys have already played, and there's a lot of improvement there. Defensively, Bob Diaco, who was the defensive coordinator at Cincinnati in 2009 when they went 12-0, I think he's very, very good at getting a game plan. And for Kiel to throw for over 300 yards and to engineer an offense that went for over 600 yards against them was very, very big. And so I think at Bearcat Land right now, we've got a lot of disgruntled people that they're not better than they are, but they lost to Memphis, who's nationally ranked late in the game. They lost to Temple, who's nationally ranked after they turned the ball over 6 times. They lost to BYU. So I have a little trouble understanding the people being disgruntled, but Gunnar Kiel, kudos to him for having such a good game last night against UConn.
Kiel has some playmakers at wide receiver. Tell us about the deep threats.
Well, his wide receivers are, I think, as strong as Cincinnati's ever had. It starts with Shaq Washington, the slot guy. He was a high school quarterback that won the state championship. The thing about Shaq is he doesn't put the ball on the ground. He's a small guy. He's not a burner. He's only about 5'9", maybe 175 pounds. But he catches the ball. He gets yards after contact. And he's just a guy that's very reliable. He's also their punt returner, which they played in rain all night, really, last night. And Connecticut punters struggled to kick the ball. And a lot of them were short and wobbly. And Shaq came up, made those catches, and didn't risk losing a lot of hidden yardage there. They've got 3 guys that are good on the outside. Johnny Holton's a speedster. He's coming off an injury. I'm not sure he's quite the 4-4 guy he was, but he's still very good. He caught a touchdown pass yesterday. Mikel McHale is 6'6". He was actually started his career at Arkansas. Was started as a true freshman at Arkansas before transferring to Cincinnati. He's a force. They also have Chris Moore, who is another speedster, and he was injured in the BYU game, just getting back on his feet. Max Morrison, Alex Chisholm are more slot guys, but both of them are very capable as well. So there's plenty of targets for whoever the UC quarterback is to throw to, and all of them are very, very skilled and very, very experienced.
Couple of backs getting the bulk of the carries. What should UCF fans know about Cinci's running game?
Well, they had 2 guys go for over 100 last night. It was amazing to see them throw the ball or run the ball so well. Quite often, Cincinnati has been identified more as a passing team than a running team. Tommy Tuberville has wanted to make the running game more of an impact, but Jose Williams, who is more short, squatty back, but he ran for over 100 yards. The guy that I really think is the best of the group is Mike Boone. He went over 100 yards. He played as a true freshman from Florida last year. And then they've got a third guy, Tion Green, who's also very good. He was a sprint champion in Florida. He's a bigger back. He's about 225 pounds, and he had an excellent game as well. I think that the Bearcats ran for not quite 300 yards, but in the 260, 270-yard category. last night against what I think is a pretty good UConn defense. So it was a good all-around game for the Bearcats, who haven't really put everything together. They turned the ball over, and that's been their biggest problem, has been turning the ball over. They turned the ball over 6 times against Temple, and they didn't turn the ball over but one time, I think, last night when Kiel fumbled. But if they could take care of the football, that offense is very, very potent.
Well, always a lot of points on the scoreboard in Cincinnati's games. What are the weaknesses in the Bearcats' D that seem like they give up a lot of points? You mentioned turnovers, but talk a little bit about the D.
Defensively, they're actually much improved from the year before. They were awful the year before. They're very, very young at the defensive end position, which I think has hurt them. They have only 8 sacks in 7 games, so they don't put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. A lot of their defensive ends are redshirt freshmen or freshmen. The defensive tackles, Alex Pace, number 99, will be the most physical presence that they'll have in there. He's a big, strong kid. He's a junior. He will, if Central Florida doesn't have a stout guard, he will put him on roller skates because he's a very, very strong kid. But Cincinnati's defense hasn't generated many turnovers either. They got a couple last night. I think that was maybe the first game that they'd had 2 takeaways. So that's been another problem for them. They've lost 3/4 of their defensive backfield. Both their cornerbacks are gone for the year, the starting cornerbacks, plus one of their safeties. But Tyrell Gilbert, number 2, who was a high school quarterback, has played very, very well for them filling in. And Zach Edwards, number 4, is a 3-year starter. So I think they're trying to get things figured out. And as bad as they were last year, which was one of the worst defenses in the league, they've actually improved tremendously this year and played very well. Other than the first drive last night, Brian Shafts ran 50 of their 58 yards on their first touchdown score. But other than that, the Bearcat defense was actually quite good, and they held UConn to only 18 yards in the third quarter. So they're better than I think that they're rated right now.
Signature win over Miami a couple weeks ago, but Cincinnati has dropped conference games to Temple and Memphis. They were the league's season favorite to win the East, chasing a few teams now. Any hot seat warming up for Tommy Tuberville?
If you come to my website, you'll see a few. But I don't think most people, Cincinnati's turned over 3 different head coaches in 3 years. Bart D'Antonio, after 3 years, went to Michigan State. Brian Kelly, after 3 years, went to Notre Dame. Butch Jones, after 3 years, went to Tennessee. This is unusual in that you see a guy come from a Power 5 conference, Texas Tech, prior to that Auburn, to what is now a G5 league. So Tommy Tuberville is still trying to build, I think, the kind of guys he wants to play with. Is it fast enough for a lot of UC fans, which had 5 or 6 10-win seasons, went to an Orange Bowl and to a Sugar Bowl during previous regimes? Some people aren't happy, but I think that overall there's no hot seat here in Cincinnati. I think that he's building a faster team. They've done a good job on the recruiting trail, and he's a guy with a pedigree. And although some fans don't like maybe some of his in-game decisions, and I don't either, to be honest about it, he at least been a big enough guy that in the press conferences later has talked about, mistakes that he's made. I don't know about you guys, but as much as we hear about, we got the player development coach, you got the quality control coaches, the defensive quality control. I think every coach almost needs to have a guy up in the booth who specializes in how to call timeouts and whether to go for 2 points or 1 point. I don't think a lot of college head coaches have made good decisions in that area.
Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I hope this week we can at least see a good football game between UCF and Cincinnati. We've kind of been on a downturn, so it may not be that spectacular, but hopefully it'll be a good game. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. Good luck to you guys the rest of the year.